Recording in progress.
Okay, so I'm calling the January 28th, 2025 Infrastructure Committee meeting to order. Let's see, I guess we're going to start off with borough projects. I guess the Narberth Avenue Bridge is up first. So I guess we'll maybe turn it over to Jesse, or do we have...
Actually, do you want to do the minutes first? We have that on our as our first agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Could you remind me when they are from?
September.
September.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I missed that. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from September 20?
I will move to approve the September 2024 minutes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Sorry, my fault. I didn't have that on my list. Okay, and then on to borough project, because we don't have any action items for borough council. So, so do we want to turn that over to Jesse?
I'd be happy to take it.
Okay.
It's good to see everybody. It's been I guess 2 months probably. We prepared another summary update. Sent that along, and my understanding is it'll go in Borough newsletter. But got all around good news to share at this point. I think when we last spoke, we were moving through the process of getting the last couple clearances with PennDOT so that the project can be advertised. There were 3 things specifically outstanding. One was our railroad certification, one was the utility clearance, and then one was getting signed off on our constructability review, just to be sure, the project should run smoothly during construction and, value was being met. We have since then gotten our constructability approval. We have also received our railroad certification from PennDOT, which is great news. The last outstanding item is the utility clearance. It's in the hands of PennDOT central office. We're anticipating getting word back on that. There may or may not be, a couple minor comments associated with it, but we're hoping before the end of February to have that in hand. Once we do, we've been given approval to start uploading documents and get this thing ready to be advertised. So I believe at this point we're hoping to have everything opened up by early March, which really kickstarts the whole process here. I think we've been pretty candid based on the feedback we've gotten from Amtrak and from PennDOT that once it's advertised, there will be a couple week window before it gets let. It's usually 5 to 7 weeks, depending upon when exactly those let dates are. Once a contractor's award, or once bids are received, there will be a couple weeks to review. Ultimately, the project will be awarded to a contractor. Based on getting on Amtrak's schedule, though, there will likely be a several-month period before any significant construction can begin on the project. Talking with Maggie, I think the intent is with these updates we've been providing for the Borough newsletter, and pardon my voice, we will spell out some more of what we're anticipating in terms of the construction timeframe so that the Borough is made aware. We'd also discussed the possibility of working with you all to host a public meeting about what construction might look like once this has been let and a contractor selected, just so we can get everybody on the same page. So we can be available for that. Otherwise, the main message is just that the news is very positive, and we're moving towards getting this thing advertised, which is the big step before construction.
And again, what's your best estimate about when it's going to be advertised?
I think at the soonest, early March, but we are going to have to look at when exactly those let dates are and be sure that we're in line with one of those so that funding on PennDOT's side can be coordinated. So there'll be a little bit of give and take, but we should have a definitive date locked in as soon as we get the utility clearance back from PennDOT. And we'll communicate that.
Okay. Any questions, guys?
Yeah, so the utility clearances, you say they might come back with comments. Would we possibly need to address anything at that point, or, you know?
Yeah, the comments at that point are really just, we've gotten all the feedback that we need from the utility companies. We have to fill out a whole slew of forms. PennDOT right now is taking all those forms, taking our plans, holding them side by side, and just making sure everything meshes so that when it gets into the contractor's hands, they have all the correct contacts, all the work that they need to do is arranged. The work that the bridge contractor needs to do on this project is actually fairly limited, but there is a bunch of coordinated action that utility companies will need to take. Again, I think we've gotten a couple of reviews on this already, so I don't anticipate too much. But again, we won't know for sure until we've got that clearance in hand.
Okay, just one other question is, I remember from a previous meeting that Amtrak likes to just do one of these projects at a time, and there was one ahead of us in progress. Does it seem like that is still the case, that, you know, that previous project is moving along and maybe could be tied up, and you know what I'm saying? Like, if we're in a queue, is that queue moving along?
Yes, it is. We had a meeting with Amtrak and PennDOT to talk through this and try to get clearer guidance on what the process was going to be. Amtrak was pretty explicit that it's, as far as they're concerned, this project just needs to get moved forward, and once it's let and out there for construction, then it will enter definitively their queue, and they'll put it where it is. You know, they don't entertain scheduling projects, it seemed to us, until it's fully out there, because things could change. From what we know, there are 2 projects currently in construction along the Harrisburg line that are being supported by Amtrak. I think it was revised to they can do 2 projects at a time, 2 bridges. Looking at the scheduling for it, those 2 should be completed in a time frame that won't delay this one too much. I still think there will be some seasonal restrictions, and we might be waiting a little bit to get some support, but we have utility actions that need to happen out in front anyway. All told, we're optimistic there won't be too much downtime on this one.
Great, thank you.
Okay. I guess we're up to the paving plan.
Yeah, so we're excited about this one. You know, this is 3/4 of a mile worth of paving, which, you know, the borough has not seen in a very long time. You know, all of these roads were on the 2020 pavement improvement plan that we did that classified as Road 3. And it's picking up where we left off a year ago, you know, completing Haverford, you know, the 1 and 200 blocks of Grayling, the 100 block of Hampton, Windsor from Narberth to Iona, and then coming down near Albrechts, you know, to the new property there. You know, the thought is, you know, starting to work on, you know, entry points to the borough. You know, once that place is fully active, you know, we're going to see a lot more traffic in there. You know, we want to put on our best face that we can. So what we're looking for today is just the approval to send this to council to get, you know, the blessing to send off to, you know, Eric and Tony for them to begin to draft our documents to be able to put this out to bid. You know, we're really hopeful, not that our last contractor was bad. You know, we've used them twice now, but, you know, this is a larger paving cycle, so it may open up the door to a larger company, you know, that could do it a bit quicker for us. So, you know, we're hopeful in that sense. And most importantly, you know, we do have the funds set aside in the highway aid budget of our. Are there any questions that you may have related to what we're proposing for 25 paving?
Any questions, guys?
I didn't have a question about that. I just had one random question because I saw this in the memo, which is I know we like got Foxball at one point. Is Narwin Lane a private or a roadway? I know it's not on the plan, but I saw it as like listed as I saw that it had a rating associated with it, and I wasn't sure if we just kind of rated everything or if.
Yeah, so Araby Road was scaled when they did this. Norwin, Foxhall, Hanson Court are still private roads. It's been on the back burner of our solicitor to draft, because council will have to pass a resolution to show to PennDOT that we've been maintaining these roads for in excess of 28 years, which we have been, so hopefully we will be able to do that this year, and then, we'll see a slight bump in what we get each year for our yearly allotment for our liquid fuels funding.
I thought we did Foxhall. No? We
No.
didn't have a resolution about,
We did not, no.
what's the one that Fred lives on?
I think
Foxhole.
That is
I thought we did Foxhall before my time, but I wasn't here for that.
It was discussed while Samantha was still here, and then I think it just kind of, fell through the cracks, it wasn't, there were a few more larger issues to attend to.
What about Lantwin, which doesn't even appear on the map, but I know that's a private road, but is that?
See, that's funny, because Lantwin is not a private road. It is.
It's not?
It is on our PennDOT map. We do collect funds for the road. It's just, it has a private road sign on. And it's respected in that sense.
Interesting.
It's something I saw years ago. We haven't gone down that road, no pun intended, that much. But their road is in fairly good shape.
Mhm. Is there a reason it's not pictured here? Because that would be in the zone of what,
Mhm.
you know what I mean, the zone of the other roads that are being paved this year. Just probably,
That I would, assume when this was done in 2020, that, it was thought that that road was private.
okay.
And I'm sorry for kind of dislodging
No, no,
that
no.
question. But I just also wanted to say that I appreciate the logic that you outlined in terms of how you've identified priority areas.
And it's something that, and of course, we couldn't be doing this unless we received our increases in fees to be able to clean and camera these pipes to make sure that we're not paving on top of failed infrastructure.
Makes sense.
Okay, no other questions?
Nope.
Okay, stormwater bump out analysis.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So towards the end of last year, probably around like September, October, Peroni was tasked with putting together a list of 30 potential locations for new bump outs. Peroni put that list together and we distributed it with the borough, and we're now working with Jeff to kind of fine tune a few bump outs that we want to put together for this year. Jeff has a couple places in mind that he's hoping will qualify for a grant that will help with funding some of these bump outs. For 2025, we're hoping to get at least like about 3 or 4, and so we just need to finalize those locations with Jeff, and then we can kind of get started on getting that project going. So
Will that come to us when you have that final list?
yeah, we can bring that list to you guys for your approval, before we get started on anything.
And the main factors that y'all are looking at when you're narrowing down the list of what sorts of things?
So the list of 30 locations, the biggest piece of criteria was the drainage area that would be going to those specific locations. The bigger the drainage area, the more credits that we can get for installing those bump outs, which goes back to the PRP credits that we need to achieve for per DEP's PRP plan. So that was the biggest criteria, and then the other other criteria was constructability. How easy is it to install them in certain locations. One of the things that Jeff is looking at is are the bump outs in low volume roads. That goes along with the grant that he's trying to get. And a low volume road is considered a road that has less than 500 cars per day of traveling through the road. So that's kind of those are the pieces that we're looking at right now.
So that's interesting. So the grant is for the low volume roads. Am I wrong in thinking that, like, from a water quality perspective, the higher volumes roads would have more crud running off of vehicles into the,
Yes and no. You know, you're not wrong thinking that. The credits that we get are not associated with the amount of are not so much associated with the water quality. It's really just based off of how big your drainage area is. So we can have a really big drainage area that all flows to a small road that qualifies for a low volume road, and that's kind of what we're going for with these few that we're looking at now.
what's the, and like how many, in our PRP, how many credits did we expect to get like total from stormwater bump outs?
I'd have to look at the spreadsheet we developed, but I think I want to say that doing all, I think it was about 23 total bump outs that the borough wanted to do. I think if we did all 23 of those, we'd get to about, I want to say like 80-90% of the credits that we would that are required of us. Eric might have a better number than I do.
I'm looking.
Okay.
Gotcha. I just wasn't sure because it looked like, you know, there's a variety of like, you know, the range of credits for each one of these. There's something in range, right? Like there's 242 is like, or 48 I guess is the lowest one I see on there.
Okay.
Up to,
4,000.
you know, 4,000, yeah.
Michael, to further kind of answer, this grant was originally for like non-urban roads, hence, you know, the title. But in recent years, you know, they've begun to open it up into more urbanized areas. You know, like this is the grant we used to do this stormwater project on the south side last year.
And that makes total sense. I was just wondering about that because it seemed, it's good for us. It just seemed contrary to like probably what the intent was when I first heard that. But that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why we'll be looking at, you know, like the 200 block of Grayling Avenue, which has 2 on the proposed map for there. You know, that being a dead end cul-de-sac street, they're not seeing 500 cars.
Is there a stormwater basin underneath the end of a 200 block of Grayling? Like a giant tank?
I don't think so. If anything, there's probably inlets and pipes that you know, that carry the water, you know, elsewhere.
Okay.
I don't think there's any kind of underground infrastructure besides that.
Correct. Just looking at the map, how precise are these markers placed? Are they general area, like hopes, or are they, you know, you actually want to locate these at the exact spots?
They're pretty close.
Pretty close.
Those are going to be the points that we want to aim for, and then, you know, depending on if there's utilities under the roadway there, or if there's other things that might, you know, force us to move the bump out, you know, 50 feet up the road or down the road, you know. This is kind of like the ideal location.
So will there be a period where we're locating these more precisely and we get to, you know, ask sort of a second layer of questions about maybe locating them in more convenient areas, you know, places that don't have parking already, or, you know, maybe closer to a corner where there's parking prohibited, or, you know, that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the intent for that we were going with was that we were gonna nail down, like, you know, 3 or 4 locations internally, you know, and when we nail down those locations, we'll have already kind of looked at, we would have already taken a deeper dive into, you know, will this work? Like, well, can we put a bump out here? Do we need to, you know, kind of move it? So does that answer your question?
Yeah, you know, so once you've done that in internal work and located 3 or 4, you know, we'll, like, at a future meeting, will we have the opportunity to sort of ask about the rationales and that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then, okay, so I guess like then the next steps would be that y'all are planning on identifying like the top 2, 3 or so priority areas and then bringing those back.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and is that, are we, is like whenever that comes back, is that gonna come back to the committee first? And I guess the reason why I'm asking is like, can we like let the folks know that there's a meeting, they can come and show? Like, I guess what I just wanna avoid is like the construction, the people hearing about it when the construction's going on, they have a chance, I mean, they might still object, but like, we can just kinda like let them know that they can come to a committee meeting at a time, and then we can actually have a public conversation if they have any issues. And if they don't, then, but I kind of want to avoid the EV charger type thing of like,
Sure.
you find out as it's happening, and then they get mad because they didn't hear about it at the
Right.
time.
I think maybe a nicer way to put it is that these, people are gonna be hosting these things on their block, they might wanna know the program they're involved in and sort of be involved in it, that this is a borough-wide, it's a mandate, to reduce particulate runoff. We have to put them somewhere, they're gonna be, 19 or 20 of these, or 23 eventually, and, this is how we're locating them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's helpful just like for us to kind of like, if there's maybe like a summary of the, like bullet pointed, like these are the criteria that this met, and then that provides us a framework to talk about it with folks as well.
Sure.
But the key thing is just like making sure that folks have been notified of it in some way, I feel like. So that if you were notified of it, you didn't do anything, then, but if you're notified of it and you wanted, then we can actually have a conversation about the logic as to why things are going a certain way.
Okay, so I'm writing down that we should announce the possible locations before the locations come to the infrastructure committee meeting.
That would be my general
Yeah, okay with that.
preference, yeah. I'm gonna speak for everyone.
So if I can summarize, so Tony, so of the, however many we have, let's see, of the 30 that we have, will the plan then be for the next infrastructure committee to have the short list?
So, not necessarily. I think the short list would be for 3 or 4 that we'll implement this year. And then next year, we'll take a look at this master list again and come up with 3 or 4 more
Yes.
to implement.
Right, so the 3 or 4 that we're considering, then that's gonna be up for discussion at the next committee meeting.
Yeah, I think, do you think that's enough time for you,
Is that
Johnson?
on time?
Yeah,
So then what we can do then, of those that we're targeting for implementation this year, we can notify the property owners who'd be impacted by that and invite them for public comment at the next infrastructure committee.
Sounds great.
And then obviously they'll have another opportunity for public comment at the council meeting.
Yeah.
and we received a surprising amount of positive feedback with the 4 that were already installed.
Well, there was
Yeah.
some surprise also.
Yeah, like during construction, people were constantly coming over asking us like, hey, what's going on here? Like, we tell them they say, wow, that's great. Like that's gonna look, this is gonna look great. Like that'll be awesome. And since then, since they were constructed, still we're getting people.
They do look really good.
Yeah, yeah.
The crew does a great job maintaining them, they're beautiful, and, when they're in season and they're in bloom, they're really nice to look at.
So hopefully that positive feedback continues with the future ones.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard very positive feedback about this, and it's the right of, I mean, they're public streets, they're not private streets. So, but I just from a, people not being surprised about stuff, right in front of that
For
was
sure.
kind of the- I actually did have an interesting, speaking of private street, public street, did have an interesting question. I noticed that there were locations identified on Narwin and Foxhall, which I thought, but, so for those, I guess, if they're not Borough owned yet, we're still able to potentially do projects on those sorts of streets?
If it's funded by the borough, yes, like we can't use this, the funding from the grants on private roads.
Okay. But it's not like we need to get like permission of whoever owns that land in fee simple or something like that?
No, yeah, that's why, I was looking at doing those 2 first, they would be the least combative, I think, to do Norwin and Foxhall.
Vauxhall, definitely, there's nobody living at the end of that. Narwin, there are properties that,
But, where this would be placed, probably to the left of the inlets there,
Mhm.
it would be.
But we don't have to get those
non-impactful.
roads dedicated to be owned by the borough before
No.
we do this.
Cool. Thank you guys.
I'm sorry, do you happen to know whether in dead ends like, or whatever you call them here, what are they called?
Cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac, thank you. How are people, is parking head on in a cul-de-sac okay? Like,
Yeah, that's typically what we see.
Yeah.
Especially on more congested ones like Country Lane.
Yeah,
They all park that way. Foxhall, there's rarely a car parked
Yeah.
in the cul-de-sac.
yeah,
Norwin, maybe a car here and there.
so it's possible that a car might even park head on in front of one of these stormwater gardens. Can the design be taken into account a little, like the ones that are placed now are accommodate curbside parking,
Mhm.
parallel parking, but for head-on parking, would the design be any different, to sort of take that into account?
Yeah, we could look into that,
Uh-huh.
and kind of get an idea of how the cars are parking and try to not interrupt, the
Mhm.
way that people are trying to
Yeah.
park their cars. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Okay? Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, other projects from the borough engineer.
I don't have anything else to add, Tony. There's kind of in the lull right now, so the bump outs and road program and the projects rolling into 2025 will be ramping up.
So no other project status that you guys are working on right now?
Just ramping up these projects and then, the daily, day-to-day and more of the grading permits and land development type stuff right now, but no other capital projects.
Okay, great, thanks. And I guess we don't have any members of the public, or do we?
No, I don't see any.
Okay. Do you guys have any other things you wanted to raise? I know, Jim, there was some concern at one point about, what was gonna happen with, Haverford Avenue while the construction was going on, but like there's no imminent start to that construction, so. I did bring it up at our prep meeting.
Okay.
There's nothing really to say right now because we don't know if and when it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, if and when that stuff starts, would we be able to get kind of like updates on how the pedestrian circulation there's gonna work? And the only reason I'm asking that is because I know that when the sidewalks right here on Haverford, adjacent to the Citizens Bank building, were under construction, whoever did that didn't recirculate the pedestrian, safe pedestrian access way at all, really. And so it just highlighted in my mind that for the downtown, that seems like it's probably gonna be pretty important. So I was just wondering if and when 230 kind of is heading forward, maybe you could get some sort of update on how pedestrian recirculation is gonna work during construction.
I was informed that the sidewalk will not be closed on the south side, that there will still be pedestrian access.
Okay.
Obviously, things can change during construction, but at this time, the expectation is that that sidewalk will remain open. It might be narrowed a little bit, but it will remain open. If it does need to be closed for whatever reason, then that would be the appropriate time to have the conversation about rerouting for a temporary pedestrian access way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, Jesse, hold on.
Yeah.
Jesse has his hand raised.
I did. Thank you, Maggie. I just want to offer a self-correction on something I said earlier regarding the bridge. You asked when I thought we would be advertising this, and I said early March, and I totally ignored that there's a month in the schedule, because when we prepare the whole package, it goes into PennDOT's system. They do an internal review, make sure everything's buttoned up, and we're anticipating that'll take about a month. So actual advertisement will be more likely early to mid-April. that March date that I had in mind is when we anticipate having all of our documentation together and in PennDOT's hands to get the advertisement correct. So apologies for misinforming earlier.
Okay, no, that's okay, I corrected it.
Thanks for the clarification, Jesse.
Okay, does anybody else have any other things they wanted to point out? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Okay,
Cool.
thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone.